Hello and happy Advent! We're going to get our Christmas tree later, so I'm very excited because decorating the Christmas tree with Christmas carols and mince pies and sitting by the fire is probably my favourite event of the whole year. So today's video is a special request from Andrew in Australia for help with practicing a Scriabin Prelude. He left a comment saying, "I'm currently working on Opus 11 No. 1 Prelude. Can you share some practice strategies to help with coordinating and cueing the left and right hand leaps and rhythms in the last 7 bars?" So I hadn't actually played this prelude by Scriabin, but when I went to look at it, I found it's absolutely beautiful. So I've decided to learn it as well, and it will make a really nice little encore, so thanks Andrew. What's tricky about this prelude is that it's not a standard division of the bar. The way that it's written looks quite complex with the rhythms going across the bar lines. So the main challenge with this piece is finding a way for it to sound natural and flowing and not a kind of stilted and jerky movement with these awkward rhythms crossing the bar. So the first thing I did was work out how the right hand melody fits in with that 2 in a bar, or even possibly 1 in a bar. It has this really lovely swing, kind of gentle swinging motion, and I think you can actually count it just 1 in a bar. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. Really interestingly, I found that the piece was originally marked ondeggiante carezzando, which is Italian for undulating and caressing. So I wonder why he removed that, because in the end it's marked vivace. So he took out those original manuscript markings when it was published, which I think is really interesting because they're such a good description of the mood of the piece. So I wonder whether there was maybe some argument with the publisher. It could be something like that, that they thought that that sounded a bit complex and that vivace was more approachable. I really don't know, but I like the original markings, undulating and caressing. The first trickier moment is in bar 8, where you get 3 crotchets in the left hand against 5 quavers in the right hand. And these crotchets are not double the length of the quavers, because then you would end up with 11 quavers in the bar. So the 3 left-hand crotchets have to fit into the time of the 5 quavers. If you have a bit of problem with polyrhythms generally, so 3 against 4 or 3 against 5 for example, then make sure you subscribe to the channel, because in the new year I'm going to do a special video just on polyrhythms, which hopefully will be really useful. So Andrew asked specifically about the last 7 bars, which is the climax of the piece. You've got these 2 parallel rhythms, so you've got 10 quavers per bar in the right hand, and you've got 6 crotchets per bar in the left hand. But, as well as that, the left hand is sometimes joining in with the right hand's quavers. So it is hard to get this to really flow. So I've got a few tips. Let's start with the last 3 bars, because it's really easier to see the pattern here. You've got groups of 3 crotchets in the left hand and 5 quavers in the right hand. I would certainly play each group of 3 and 5 starting together. If you're really mathematical about it and work out the exact placement of each crotchet and each quaver, they don't precisely match up. But to me, being that precise is actually not going to come out in a musical way. To me, it's quite clear that this is what Scriabin meant by this notation. If you go back to bar 8, you can see that obviously the 3 and the 5 groups start together. And I really think that he meant it to always be like that. but there isn't actually a precise way to notate that. If you think about how he could have written it, it would be kind of impossible. It would be so complex. You'd have all these dots and semiquavers. So I feel that this is a kind of shorthand for what the effect that he was after. The most important thing here is to maintain that natural and organic feel of the music. So I think this is a little bit like musical detective work, you know, deciphering the patterns and the codes to work out how it's meant to sound. It's kind of the reason why I really love practicing. The last thing I want to talk about is how to physically practice those left-hand jumps, because they're quite big jumps right across the keyboard, and you have to get them in time so that they fit with the flowing quavers. So my biggest and most important recommendation is that you practice this blind. I know that sounds crazy and mental, but it's so helpful. So start slowly. It takes a while to get the feel of where the chords are, but I promise you it's really worth the time and effort. What you want to do is try and teach your hands just by feel where the octaves and chords are. So that then when you play with your eyes open, you don't have to be stressing, trying to find where they have to land. I would ignore the left-hand quavers to start with, so just work on the crotchet octaves and chords. I'm getting jumbled in my mind. So just focus on the octaves and chords to start with, and then when you feel comfy with that, add in those quavers. Just working with the left hand for now. Then you can introduce the right hand. And what I would really be focusing on at this point is covering the joins between the crotchets and the quavers. So to do this, I would make myself little, what do we call them? Blocks? Yeah, blocks. So you could even write it in to cover the tricky bits. I think the hardest thing here is to get the left hand back down to the bottom octave while continuing the right hand quavers fluently. So that's what I would be focusing on here.